Good evening and welcome to Gaelic Football Views on CavandTV.com. On tonight's show, we're delighted to be joined by a number of friends of the late Niall Dolan ahead of the opening of Dolan Park next Sunday evening. We'll also be bringing you all the results from the All-County Football League matches this weekend gone by.
Cavan will face Meath next Sunday, May the 10th at 6:30 in Dolan Park, Virginia. Egan O'Farrell will officially open the pitch before the game. To mark the occasion and tell us a little bit about the man that Ramor United have decided to honour, we are delighted to be joined in studio by Frank Dolan, Niall's father, Niall's younger brother Fergus Dolan.
Yeah, as well as Michael O'Donoghue, Michael Maguire and Martin Lynch from the Ramor Club, and Niall's colleague and business partner Martin Cosgrove. Thanks very much, folks, for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you all in here. Well, most of these anyways.
Thank you.
Before we get talking about Niall, Michael, would you be able to just tell us a little bit to start off with about the Ramor Club, the history of the Ramor Club?
Okay. Well, it was first founded in 1976. There was a meeting held in what was the town hall that time. It was over the courthouse, and it was chaired by the chairman of the county board, Paddy Donoghue. And it was at that meeting that Ramor was founded back in 1976. Owen Hanratty was elected the first chairman of the club, with Patsy McDonald as vice chairman, Ned Duffy was secretary, and Jim Brady, the miller, was the first treasurer of the club. So I suppose from that was the start of Ramor, and for the following years then they worked to stabilise and build the club on. In 78 then they won a Junior B League, and then in 1980 they won an under-21. And then in 1982 they purchased the field on the Dublin Road, the top field, which we refer to as now on the Dublin Road. And following that then they spent the next few years developing that, and they built a clubhouse and some dressing rooms, and that was the way then for the next few years. And the chairman came, and Patsy McDonald was chairman then, and for a good few years, followed by Ned Duffy and Tony Rooter, and each chairman came and they developed a bit more. John Riley and then Jean Clancy, they started to build on new dressing rooms, and 4 new dressing rooms, and we built then the AstroTurf then in the coming years. Then around 1992 Frank went and purchased what we would call the bottom field, the field that we're looking to open now in his name, and then Ramor United bought that field from Frank then later on. And in the following years then we developed that club at that field, but there was a lot of work to do on that field just to make it into the field it is today, and with drainage and all that. So Niall's first joined the committees the social committee was one of the first committees he joined, and surprisingly how fitting, but he was joined by Jerry Hopkins and Paul Glacken at that time, and that committee, and Paddy Riley, and that was it brought great social end to the club at that time. And we went from strength to strength. We won our first championship, I suppose, in 1985, and that was a great year, the start of the winning. We had a very strong team at that time. We won the league that year as well, and the league the following year, and I suppose we were expected to go on. But anyway, that team done well, and we had junior leagues and championships then the following years, and in 1992 we won a second championship. The club kept building, and we have that second pitch well developed now, and Niall, I suppose, spent a long time fundraising and that to pay for all this development and that, so he was a huge part of the club all the time.
Yeah, and so Frank, I suppose people obviously associate Niall with Ramor, but traditionally you are not from Virginia area. Can you tell us how you came about to end up in Virginia?
Well, I was in the bank, in the Northern Bank as it was then, and I originated from Leitrim. So we moved about a bit. We came from Belfast first in 1970 to Shercock, and spent 4 years there, and then came to Virginia in 85.
75.
Or 75, sorry. And just got involved. I was secretary at Lowe for 5 years, and then development officer through most of the development for 10 or 12 years. And
Would you have had a background in GA in Leitrim when you were growing up, even?
Yeah, not much. It was actually there was no team, and I was never at home really because I left young. I played a minor match or two, but that's all. I was involved in a club in Belfast for a while. And
what club were you with? In
the Rossa. And Shercock, there wasn't a team there. When I came there, all the fellas played for Kings Court and Bailieborough, but there was a sergeant there. He started an underage team. He had 2 boys, about 14 or 15 at the time, or less, 13 or 14. And he started a schoolboy team or an underage team. And Niall was very young. Niall was about 12 at the time. He was a year younger. Then he didn't get on the team. He was very anxious to get on the team. So we had a fairly big field at the back of the bank where we were living at the time. So he organised a match one morning, a trial, and asked the sergeant to come to him.
He organised his own trial.
Yeah, his own trial in his own field. I met the sergeant went up and said, Pat, where are you?
So he took home advantage to a new level.
Yeah. So poor Pat, he couldn't be kept off the team then. He always had initiative from the earliest times.
That's
I remember when he was 3, there were people on the street there beside us, or Fitzpatrick's. He disappeared one morning on Patrick's Day. He said, "Where were you?" He says, "I was over wishing the Fitzpatricks happy birthday."
Happy birthday.
Brilliant. We'll move on to Fergus then. And Fergus, you're a brother obviously of Niall's. Would you tell us about his early days kicking football with Lurgan, St. McCarthan's and Monaghan?
Yeah, okay. Well, so he was in McCarthan's from about 74 to 79, and he was a good footballer, and he was a bit young for the Ranelagh team. The Ranelagh team won the Ranelagh maybe 77, but he was quite young, but he was a sub on it. But anyway, he used to pass around the medal to other fellas in Dublin who used to let on. They were on that team, Hugh Mohan and another couple of lads who had bets with fellas, other solicitors in Dublin. But at home, he used to get, as Dad said, we had a big back garden in both Shercock and Virginia, so we'd be out kicking football, myself and my younger brother Tony, and Niall had usually lads his own age over playing games. But if you couldn't get them, we were kind of the guinea pigs. So Michael here beside me, we used to be pulled in Virginia too. There's sometimes when he couldn't get lads his own age, myself and Tony had to be the Derry or Tyrone full back line or goalies. And so Tony was about 5 or 6 and I was a year older, and Niall was 4 years older, and Tony kicked the ball out as the goalie, and Niall would always catch it in midfield very dramatically, like Ollie Leddy or Ollie Brady, and he'd go charging through me handy enough and rattle the ball into the back of the net, and he'd commentate. He was a commentator as well. And sure, I never caught a ball or scored a goal, or Tony never saved one, or Dougie was, me all here was trampled as well on the way in, so we didn't get in the way much,
So there was a competitive streak to him at an early age.
You could say that, yes, absolutely. And I heard Michael talking about the social committee that Niall and Jerry Hopkins and Paddy Riley and Paul Clackham were on. There's one trip to Galway around, I can't remember what year it was, maybe 85. And anyway, it was June Bank Holiday weekend, so it was a really warm, sunny weekend, and the Sunday morning they went into the King's Head in Galway there was a jazz session on, there was a great crack. The place was jammed, but Niall found it hilarious that the fire lit, and everyone was sweating. So there's a load of posh Dublin women standing up near the fire, and every 20 minutes Niall would roar up at the barman, "Barman, put another shovel of coal in that fire!" And a young barman who was very eager would come down and put another shovel of coal in, and the women were going, "Oh jeez, please, no, please!" And I said, "No, stand back!" And he roared 20 minutes later, "Put another shovel of coal in that fire!" And they were melting, the women. And so were we, but God was good crack. Yeah. Frank Coleman on.
The clothes were coming off.
Absolutely.
Probably part of the plan.
It was a publican's dream, because the hotter they got, the more
absolutely the more drink, and the young barman didn't realise that he was just being wound up, you know what I mean? He was a very dutiful barman, and if a customer was asking for more coal on the fire.
He soon learned a lesson, that young barman, I'd say. Martin, you played with Niall in Ramor anyway, but when was the first time that you played with Niall?
I played with Niall under 14. We won an under 14 championship, and from there on till the end of our careers, really. We ended up playing over 40s with Cavan, so that was the last together. So it was that was the duration from. But Niall would have quite an array of medals now. He has an under 14 championship, minor league, minor championship, 2 under 21 championships, 2 junior Bs, 2 senior championships, and 3 senior leagues. So there'll be
not much left.
No, there's not much left. So he has a quite decorated trophy cabinet.
Yes,
a lot of silver in there.
So
and he carried Martin through most of those matches.
So your county career was thanks to Niall.
Well, he carried me home a lot of nights.
Kind of a wingman.
Like the night that, he was one of those tenacious type of players. Niall had an ability. He was always fit. You didn't have to train that much. And the one thing you always got from Niall on the football field was 100%. He'd always give you 100%. But he was very versatile. You can play him a cornerback, wing back, corner forward, wing forward. And he'd do much the same job. He was a tenacious type of, as I say, 100%. He was always that type of character. But
just wanted a jersey.
Yeah, he was always very honest. He would always turn up. He was never not there. Niall was always one of the reliables, dependable. Because there was such crack afterwards in the matches.
It's funny you mentioned that he was always there. There's another story there is of the time they were playing Drumalee in a league match, and he got the helicopter to bring him from. So like you know that his dedication to playing football. He was down there in 11 minutes.
I never heard this.
They were playing Drumalee. I'd say you know the story.
It was in Ramor.
He was
George
working.
Maloney had his helicopter, but it was all part of the show. It wouldn't be any good if you arrived up in a car. That's all part of the Niall character. So it had to be.
I suppose it was an intimidation thing because Drummond wouldn't have been a bad team at that stage. So
he was disappointed there wasn't a bigger crowd when the helicopter arrived.
What he was on, he played the game and he was won by 2 goals against Drummond that day. He was at work and he couldn't get out of work. The match was fixed for 12 o'clock and he was going to have to get out of work just a little bit early. And he got the load of the helicopter and off he went to the.
She's absolutely wonderful. That's a great one. But I suppose Martin, you could tell us a little bit about. You worked with him for a long time. You obviously had the practice together. But where did you first meet Niall?
We started to work together in O'Connell Street in Dublin in Fairmelby McMahon's back in 1987. Niall was thinking at that stage of going travelling for a year. So effectively, I was getting his job, but I wasn't qualified yet.
Okay.
So
still aren't, are you?
Still working on. So that when we went back then, if you were an apprentice, you couldn't appear in court. But I had to appear in court to back up Niall. So different days I'd be in as Niall Dolan and he'd be in as Niall Dolan. And the judges were trying to figure out how some days I was 6'2", and other days I was 5'10".
Niall was only about 5'7".
Big shoes to fill.
Yeah. And then in 1988, I think we moved. He asked me, and we moved down here. We set up a practice in Virginia, and there was already a practice on in Coothill. So at that stage, it was nearly all district court work. It was defending the indefensible a lot of the times, but it was always good crack. Remember, I think Niall had the first drink driving ever dealt with on DNA. A man was arrested for drink driving, and he denied it was him. He said it wasn't him that was caught on the night at all. It was someone else. And not only that, he had a picture of the fella who he said it was in his pocket and showed it to the guard. And the guard said, no, the more I see the picture, the more I know it's you. So Niall convinced Judge Brophy at the time up in Kells that the only way to sort it out was to get a DNA test done, to get your man was given a new sample of blood and it's been matched against the sample that had been given on the night. Test it and send it to England. Now, Niall had a fair idea that the fellow was telling the truth because he stumped up the £1,000 to get the sample tested. So he said, if that's been done, it's obviously true. So it came back anyway, and it turned out it wasn't him. So Niall got to say it was the time of the O.J. Simpson trial in America, in Los Angeles. So Niall got to say in court in Kells, O.J. Simpson might be not guilty, but this man is innocent. And the judge loved it. Judge Brophy loved all that.
Judge Brophy loved that one. Alright, story. Classic.
There was another bit of a story I think I was told about. You might remember about he defended a woman who had conned a lot of solicitors at one stage. Was that no? Maybe I'm I was told a story now, and you can tell me maybe if it's true or untrue, but there was a woman who was going around and she was being brought to court by a number of different solicitors because she'd go in and say that that she had been, I think she had been lifted or been abused by a few people or something, but that there was a big payday coming her way anyway. This was this case, and she went to a number of different solicitors telling them about this case, but they were all sure of this big payday, and a few weeks before the court would be sitting, she'd ring them and say, geez, I'm going to have to go away, there's a problem here. And in order to keep her about, because they expected a big payday in the court, the solicitors would then give her money to keep her around. Trick on
We'd be delighted to defend someone for doing that. Especially if he knew the other solicitor.
He could defend anybody.
Ah, yeah.
Then, Michael, you're Niall's brother-in-law, and tell us, when did you first meet Niall?
I met him, I suppose, in the early 90s. I started going out with his sister, and I was
How did he
fortunate
feel
enough
about
to.
that?
He was okay about it. He didn't.
I wasn't.
We got Frank. He had got Frank. But I remember him giving a great bit of advice to me. We actually moved up to Virginia after that. At the time we were living in Killygarry. And in about 98, we were the house was getting a bit small for us in Killygarry, and we said we'd move up country. I was keen to maybe move back to Meath, but that wasn't going to happen anyway. And I remember Niall giving me a bit of advice, and he'd always say, "I'm not telling you what to do or anything like that, but if you move back to Virginia, look, you'll be back near her mother and father. You're travelling a good bit. Them kids will get a lot more minding, and you'll find it an awful lot easier to be out and about and away. And if you only get out for a pint, you'll find it'll be much easier at night to get out of Virginia." But he still wasn't telling me what to do, but he
in his own way.
And then he picked out the house.
So you're originally from Meath, then, Niall?
Yes, yeah.
What part of Meath are you from?
I'm from outside Old Castle.
Outside Old Castle.
Yeah, just from a place called Ballinacree, or the football club there is known as the Bridgets.
The Bridgets. I played down there before, so
yes, yeah.
You'll be looking forward to the game then on
absolutely, yeah.
Saturday.
No. I think there's actually when Niall after he got married, they actually lived in Meath for a while. They lived in Kells initially after himself and Anne got married.
97, was it? They were throwing stones that year.
I think it was 92. Himself and Anne got married, and they were looking for. Anne was commuting to Dublin.
She was working in Dublin.
And Niall obviously had practice in Virginia, maybe Coothill at the time, and they picked Kells as a very central venue. So they stayed there for a couple of years until he built. He was in the process of building their dream home, which took quite a bit of time and effort because he just wasn't going to build any old house. Most of it had to be gathered from, and not just scrap yards, from salvage yards in different parts of the country. And
any man who goes to a football match in a helicopter, I'm sure is going to build a nice house at the end of the day.
It's going to take time. You need the helipad as well.
But he spent great time and took a huge interest in that. But it was like everything that Niall did. He if he went at something, he went with the passion. It just wasn't. He just wouldn't do something for the sake of doing it. Or if somebody offered to build a house, no, that wouldn't be good enough. No, I'll put my own print on it. And it was like the way he went about his work, the way he went about his play. Everything that he did with a passion that I think most of us that have ever been around him would struggle to stay with, because the pace that he had and the momentum he could get into things. We were talking earlier about fundraising efforts, and his great trick with the fundraising, once if he had any bit of opposition and come into the club, he'd make sure before the meeting to have about 5 phone calls made to say, make sure you bring in €1,000. I don't give a damn if you have it or not, but say tonight, I've got the commitment of €1,000 for this fundraiser, and we'll have 5,000 up, and that'll kill the negativity.
Straight away.
And that was how we drove. Most of the fundraising effort started with that sort of a process.
Brilliant.
So, in other words, the fellow that was saying to him, well, that'll never work. Well, sure, how do you mean it'll never work?
We've already got 5,000.
It was a success at an early stage.
Brilliant idea.
That was for the banquet. No, there wasn't much encouragement to go with that. And they had a banquet.
The gala ball. That was his favourite ball. Just when the downturn was coming, we decided to go for the gala ball.
Tuxedos and all.
Oh yeah, the full works. Yeah.
It was to say goodbye to the Celtic Tiger.
To show it still could be done.
But Martin, yourself, or Niall and yourself, ran obviously the successful legal practice for years. I'm sure there were endless stories of Cavan and Cuddill. I think we're going back a slight there instead of forward. But sorry, we'll go on to Frank. Frank, if you could tell us a wee bit about Niall's involvement with Cavan County Board.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know much about it really. Well, he went to the county board. He was he was on the representative for a year. But sure, every club in the county would ring him up. You know, he drafted. If there was trouble in a club, he'd draft the appeal and all that for them.
He was like a Joe Brawley ahead of his time, really.
He was part of the
delegate.
But he put a motion in with Crow Park. He for opening up Crow Park.
The club first and put in fairness, the club support, and so did the county board. Yeah. But it was rejected. Frank Murphy or somebody rejected it, and they came back to them to put in a motion that couldn't be thrown out. But he was on the disciplinary committee at the time. He was on that.
The DRA.
The DRA.
Okay.
At the time, remember one time Navan O'Mahony's objected to semi-final, and they went on.
And went on. That's right. Yeah.
A couple of years. He and a fella called Liam Keane were on that. So through the president at the time was keeping a low profile. Was John Kelly. And through Tom Kennoy, the chairman of Tom Kennoy, he got on to Tom Kennoy, and Tom Kennoy got on to Niall to about drafting, a motion that couldn't be thrown out.
And it was one of those that actually went through that succeeded, because the second convention, wasn't it, that they had 6 motions in to open up Crow Park, because he'd actually, I remember he set out a campaign and he had done out the figures on how much it was going to be worth to Crow Park, because there was all sorts of negativity, and we remember we were all given a county or two to contact, because that was the way to do it. You had to get the support of and the biggest problem was in Ulster, obviously, at the time, because there was I think the
reluctance.
A chairman or a president that wasn't too happy about it, or shall remain nameless.
It was quite local.
But no, he spent a lot of time on that, and that was all voluntary. He never asked, nor would he have expected to get anything back. But the amount of time that he would have actually volunteered to like, when I think even in the president's book there, he's referred to as being, the sharp solicitor from Cavan, who seemed to have a grasp of the legal aspects of getting around the powers that be within the GAA, and breaking their systems. All right.
Just another story on that. As Michael said, different fellas in the club had to ring different counties and try and get it through. So because my mother's from Newtown, Butler and from Anna, we've got cousins and relatives there, and my mother's brother Fergus McQuillan was involved in the Newtown Butler club. So Niall rang him and tried to convince him. Now Newtown Butler is south from Anna, and it might be tricky to convince him to open Crow Park to soccer and the like. So anyway, Niall rang Fergus, and Fergus McQuillan said, "Yeah, I'll try." So about a few days later, Fergus McQuillan rang Niall back and says, "So I have some good news and some bad news." So Newtown Butler have agreed, and I said, "Oh, that's great." He says, "When there's a United Ireland."
One
We're still waiting.
I suppose, Martin, you'd have obviously through working with him for a long time, but were you aware of the amount of sponsorship the Jews had done for clubs around the county?
I thought it was the same jerseys all the time. He kept telling me about these jerseys. It was only the night of his removal, we walked around the corner and I saw everybody. I was looking at the jerseys. There was pink ones, there was green ones, all these things, and it was all A.B. O'Reilly Dolan solicitors on them. I said, Mike, it would be cheaper to get the factory. He had all. That's why there were so many people out. Is that every child in Virginia at some stage
Had a jersey.
As a Jared. And probably still has them. But he spent all his time on it. I think one of his last escapades as a solicitor was in Croke Park. Was it defendant Anthony Ford or somebody?
Yes.
He got him off.
And he got him off. And he said he rang me directly after it. Now, he was well ill at this stage. And he rang afterwards and he said, I just wore them out.
That was only 3 years ago. Anthony was for encroaching on the field. There was a fairly robust match.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And Anthony realised, well, we need somebody that will have a bit of clout in Croke Park, and was known. So he got, in fairness to Niall, and he was tight up for it. But it just goes to show that, you know, how he battled through, because at the time he was you know, in some of the late stages of sickness, but he went in, and as he said himself, he just sat there and kept coming up with reasons why this, you know, he shouldn't be suspended, and there was an important match coming up the following week.
The Fergus, obviously Niall extremely passionate, by the sounds of it, very fun, energetic man, but you know, there's bound to be a lot of stories, because the most common thing that I've heard about him is that he had a wicked sense of humour. Are there any stories you could tell us to describe it?
Who was, you know, for the bill for who had that story?
No, I don't remember that one, but yeah, I mean,
you can tell that after Frank.
He had a fantastic sense of humour, and he was a quick thinker. So yeah, I remember one of the times when we were kids, we were in the back garden, and he was showing myself and my younger brother Tony. We were about 4 and 5 years of age, and he was maybe 10. How you could swing a full bucket of water upside down really fast, and none of the water would fall out. And we were amazed at this, youngsters, you know. And then he bluffed to throw the bucket of water over my little brother Tony, who was about 4. And then he said, "Do you dare me?" And so we said we did. We didn't think he would. So he threw the full bucket of water over Tony, and Tony burst out crying and says, "I'm going to tell Mammy." So he proceeded to walk in, Tony, and I followed him for the drama. But Niall shot in ahead of Tony, and we were walking through the kitchen looking for our mother, and Niall was standing with a sugar bowl, and he said to Tony, "If I give you a full spoon of sugar, will you not tell?" And Tony went, "Okay." So he got the full spoon of sugar. Niall got him dried off, the clothes dried in the hot press. My mother never found out.
Do you remember when he bought the little mini car for a while, like Mr. Bean? He had it for a short time. He brought it. I remember after training one day we went down the town after, and we were getting out of the car outside on the square there, and I said, "No, the doors don't lock on this car like that." So he had the nut on top of the steering wheel loosened up, and he could take the steering wheel off and bring it into the pub with him or whatever. He was sure it was going to be there when he came out.
It'd be a difficult one to steal it. That's
The other one that just reminded me of the scene after, was it in '92 that the night that Ramor won the championship, didn't you win the
in '85?
'85, you won the lotto. The pair of boys.
Fergus, my younger brother Tony. There was a Ramor draw at the time, raising money for the field, and there was big prizes at the time. It was like some months there was a car to be won, and some months was £1,000 punts. Myself and my brother Tony were 18 or something. We were students, so we bought a ticket between us. They were expensive at the time for us. So anyway, the night after they won the championship, the big King's Court, and Martin and Niall and Derek McDonald were on the team, and there was a draw in Michael O'Donoghue's bar in Virginia, and myself and Tony's ticket came out as a winner. So somebody came down we were all down in Pat Fay's American bar, and somebody came down to announce the 2 young Dolans have won. And Niall stood up and cheered and bought drinks for the whole pub. But myself and Tony had to go in the following Thursday to Mrs. Fay and pay the tab. It wasn't too bad. It was in Cavan, so it wasn't too bad. So he said it couldn't happen to 2 nicer fellas, and he put his arm around me like pretending he'd won the ticket with me. It was my younger brother Tony, who started college in Dundalk and wasn't there.
Oh, brilliant. Frank, can you tell us a wee bit about, then go back to the development of the pitch? You were, as you said, chairman of the development committee for years, but back in the 90s, you bought the land, was it, initially?
Yeah, I bought the land. The club said they didn't want it. Well, they had a lot on their plate at the time, and then I bought it laid there, and he had come back to live. He had come back to the practice in Coothill, and I said, "Do you want the club they want this field now?" And he said, "Let them have it." He was, he might have built a house and that. He said, "Let them have it." So I let them sold the field to them for what I paid for it. So it went away and did something else, and it worked out well.
The advantage of the second field, as every club knows now, is absolutely huge.
It's huge, yeah. And even got an astroturf fitted in between the two pitches.
Yeah, it's a wonderful facility to have down there.
But it was great vision back in the 90s for yourselves and others to be thinking, because most people were just happy to have one field and thought that was going to be enough. But you were probably one of the first clubs in the county to have a second field.
We're blessed too with, we've great sponsors and we've great voluntary labour. Like, okay, we buy the raw materials, but everything would be done like for little or no cost, which was a huge boost at times when you're trying to develop, fields and club rooms and all that sort of thing. So
especially when you look at clubs now that are suffering because they borrowed money and whatever, to build their facilities and whatever. So
absolutely.
They used to be in the positions they're in.
Absolutely. We did borrow a lot of money too. We did a lot of heavy development there for years. We were in debt to a large degree, but Niall did push on a lot of huge fundraisers, and the way Michael described it, he used to pump a lot of money in at the early stages, so it was a success from the word go. Do you know what I mean? You just build on it then, So I suppose that cleared an awful lot of debt in the last few years. Dave McDonald and Paddy McNamee cleared it all in the last few years. So, we're in a good position at the moment now for more development.
Michael, just to talk again about Niall's sporting love, it wasn't just for GAA. He's massively into all sports, rugby and the ladies' football and the whole
very much. Especially in recent times, he got heavily involved in ladies' football. The girls play quite a bit with Catherine and Roisin, and that got him involved. And he became an expert on that quite quickly as well.
I think that's a trait that consistently through his life.
We went to the World Beach Volleyball Championships in Barcelona, and he was an expert on that. By the end of the first day, he knew exactly how big the outfits were meant to be, and was fit to complain when some of them were too big.
And that's vital in that sport. Vital.
But he was great even at I was speaking with fellas at the rugby over the weekend, and they were saying he was never shy of supporting any sporting organisation. If you came, he just couldn't say no to a good cause, and that was the type of him. So whether it was rugby or soccer or ladies football or Gaelic football, it got the same support within the volleyball.
When he went to college, he joined in doing kung fu, something, martial arts, and he found that it wasn't much good and they didn't do very much. But there was a doctor there that was very interested in a boxing club, and he travelled a good bit all over the country with the boys and took, was a father figure to them. He joined the boxing club, and he finished up with the British and Irish universities featherweight champion.
Really?
Yeah.
2 years.
Wow, within 2 years.
Yeah.
Jesus, that's some achievement now.
Some achievement to win one boxing match over there, because when he tell you about the weekends they had in Bath over at the British and Irish University Championship, they'd arrive back to the B&B about 4 a.m. and they were fighting the next day. And it wasn't the local library museum they were visiting.
Poor doctor was running after them, and
that was nearly threw himself into everything 150%. Like that's what everybody has said.
But he saw immediately that there wasn't the martial arts wasn't much fun, but this was going to be good.
There was a social aspect to the boxing as well, so there was, which helped.
And Martin, did that boxing come in handy on the football field for Niall?
There's no white light about it.
No, there was no question about it. Niall, for not that big a man, could handle himself on the field. He was actually very brave.
We never got caught.
No, we didn't get caught, Frank.
It's different.
He was too smart. He didn't get caught. He was certainly very brave. He was brave on the football field. Yeah, there's no doubt about it.
Little man syndrome.
You wouldn't put your hands in while you put your head.
Yeah.
That was it. Niall was one of those type.
He had the head in.
Always go down the dirty ball. He'd always go in for it.
Him and Kevin McNamee.
He was brave. He was brave. There was no question about it.
But I think that boxing stood to him through his illness. There's no doubt about it, because he had a stronger core than most normal people, and it took a lot. You'd know even from wrestling with him, back when the kids would be playing and that, he was hard to.
It wasn't a naked wrestling.
Mud, was it?
When he'd try and pick on me as a newcomer into the family. He was trying to get around Frank.
Fergus, he showed that bravery all the way through his illness and you know,
2.5 years of it.
and constant fighting.
Yeah.
He never gave up at
He
all.
never did, and he never complained, and he never said why me or felt sorry for himself. He was great to visit. You know, we were obviously
So the positive and everything there, didn't
positive and everything. Yeah, a year and a few months before he died, he was very low, and the doctors thought he had a fortnight or so, and he came round and he said they thought I was a goner, but and he made a good recovery and had a relatively good quality of life for another 16, 18 months after that. Did a lot with Anne and the kids, you know, and talked a lot and ironed out everything. And I remember not long before he died, he said, well, I've no enemies and never had an enemy and never, you know, so I've no one to apologise to or make up to. And it was true even before he got sick, you know, he'd no issues to sort out.
But even from the courts, like he was a criminal defence solicitor for many, many years. But if you saw the number of guards that turned up at his funeral, and ex-guards and retired guards, he never pulled a dirty blow on a guard. Much knowledge.
He'd always tell you in advance when you put a fight on.
He'd always tell you. He never taught me that bit. But up to the end, I think in his last week, he got bad news on the Monday, and I went in to see him on the Monday, and all he said was, not great news. You know, like he played everything down. He was brave to the end. Like, he was unbelievable.
Yeah.
I suppose, Michael, to finish off with the significance of naming the Dolan Park for the amount of work that he's done for the club. Usually you hear of people getting parks named after him maybe 20 years after, but he's so fresh in the memory still. It shows how much he was loved in the community and in the GAA.
Yeah, but even the few stories here tonight, you can see how deep he was involved in the club and how his positivity was so infectious, and he was always there to drive the club on in a positive way, both as a player and later on then on the committees. I suppose like all other clubs, Ramor hit by different blows here and there. We had Christopher Shields died there a number of years ago, and that was a blow to the club down. And I suppose, you know, people pass on, but I suppose Niall's passing has been, taking a big toll on the club. But it's a nice gesture on behalf of the club to dedicate this bottom pitch after Niall, because you know the volume of work he's done and the spirit in which he did it, and like he brought the whole club with him. Like it wasn't a solo effort. Like he just brought everyone with him, and everyone was glad to help along with him. And he had that infectious way of getting everyone to do what he wanted him to do. You know, that sort of way. And
everything was thought through. Even the playground at Ramor, he got the judge to come and open it, because he said if the judge opens it and somebody damages it, they're going to end up in front of that judge, and he'll hammer them.
That's my.
It was a great coup.
That's right. Very cleverly thought out.
In addition, that he got the
and we got the money as well out of the pure box money out of the court as well. That helped too.
Niall would expect us to move onwards and upwards.
Yeah.
The one thing Niall, he wouldn't have thanked us for sitting back and feeling sorry for ourselves or or the whole situation. He would expect us to move on with the club, and because that's what he would do. And that's what he done, especially with his illness. Like it was just hard to fathom how mentally a person could cope with what he was doing and what he was coping with such dignity, and right through. And he took everybody on board, family, community, club, everything was brought on board the whole way through. So, as I say, Niall will expect us to move on with the pitch, and use it, maybe to make money in his name or whatever, but they expect us to move onwards and upwards.
And the fact that it will be Dolan Park, he'll inspire not just the next generation, but maybe generations and generations to come, because the stories will continue to travel.
Yeah, and there will be a big interest in the opening of the pitch because of Niall's influence in the club and in an awful lot of people in the GAA and the community, not just the GAA, but in the greater wider community. Niall was a friend to everybody.
It went further than Ramor.
Even
further than Callan.
And Brooke, 3 people from Kerry.
Lots of people from all over the country.
Yeah, but I think it's very true. Like, okay, he had very influence on the football, but people got very friendly with Niall, and he was very generous with his advice as well. So I'd say he helped a lot of people in a private capacity as well as on the field and that. So.
Well, it's absolutely brilliant. So, folks, look, thanks a million for coming in and telling us all the wonderful stories and the great anecdotes that you've experienced with Niall. And like you said, there's probably another 100 people around Virginia alone that have more stories. But that was a great little sort of window into a wonderful life, and you know, it might have been shorter than expected, but it was full to the brim.
Thank you very much.
Saturday night, well, there'll be plenty more.
Sunday
night.
Sunday night.
You'll be up a day early.
That wouldn't be unusual.
That's a good Niall to do. We'd arrive a day early.
Due to his memories.
So the opening of Dolan Park will take place on Sunday the 10th of May at 6:30 p.m. and Cavan will obviously be taking on Meath in that game, and it's going to be opened by Eamon O'Farrell, who would have known Niall fairly well.
Is coming too.
Yeah.
I'm sure Port Duffy will be there as well. So a wonderful occasion, and look at everybody. Please do get up and support it. It's if the weather stays out, I can imagine there'll be thousands at it, because it's a great location right on the border of Cavan and Meath. He's picked one good team, and he's picked Meath. So.
Loud weren't available.
So on that note, that brings us to the end of part 1, but do join us in part 2, where we'll be giving you all the results from the ACFL clashes over the weekend, so stay tuned.
Okay.
Lads.
Lovely. Thank you very much, man. Cheers. Absolute pleasure.
Cavan Crystal Hotel provides 4-star accommodation on the edge of Cavan town. Located conveniently on the Dublin Road, just 60 minutes away from Dublin. With 85 beautifully appointed bedrooms and a number of luxurious suites. We offer wedding packages. With our one wedding a day policy, we guarantee to make yours a special day. Enjoy a meal at our award-winning Opus One restaurant, or have a drink in the atrium or residence bars. Feeling energetic? You can work out in Zest Health and Fitness Club, or maybe pamper yourself and visit Utopia Health and Beauty Clinic, or Avita's Hair Salon, both located on site. Situated only 5 minutes from Cavan Town Centre and local amenities. Cavan Crystal Hotel, gateway to Ireland's Lakelands. Cavan.
So welcome back to part 2 of Gaelic Football Views, and again thanks to all the lads that come in from Ramor. Absolutely wonderful first half. And
Cosgrove.
But a wonderful first half show, very, very entertaining. I'm sure people will agree. So as we say, get up to Ramor this coming Sunday for the Cavan v Meath game, the opening of Dolan Park. We're going to move on very quickly now into the results from the All-County Football League Division 1A Round 4, which was played on Friday night gone by.
Yeah, the first game saw Mullahoran taking on Kingscourt. This game was played down in Mullahoran, and Kingscourt, the visitors, came away with a win here, a 2-point win, 1 goal and 15 points to Mullahoran's 16 points. So a good win for Kingscourt there down in Mullahoran. Yeah, very good win. That's two wins in a row now for Kingscourt. They're starting to get a bit of momentum up. Unfortunately for Mullahoran, that's 2 losses and a draw, I think. But they've played Castlereagh, Cavan Gales and Kingscourt. Yeah. So, you know, they'd be looking at making excuses for them. Well, I'm just... if you're going to win a senior championship, you need to be beating the top teams. Right, well then, sure. Right. Watch this space. So you're saying Mullahoran won't win the senior championship? So you're saying they will? Well, I'm not the one who made the statement. But I just... It'll be interesting to see, because they have... they've had a very, very tough opening. Yeah, they have. And they haven't lost them by much. You know, there's only been a kick of a ball, really. And yet they're missing a lot of players still. They're down quite a few. I was talking to the Mullahoran manager on Tuesday gone by, so he was just saying that they're probably down 7 or 8 of the actual team. So it's not a bad start. But the second game saw Ballina taking on Coothill, and this was in Ballina, but Coothill came away with the victory here. A goal and 16 points to Coothill and a goal and 12 to Ballina. So that's a good result. Great result for Coothill, yeah. And Coothill are really, like, so far they're really establishing themselves as a Division 1A team, and they do look like they're going to hold their place in Division 1A. still a lot of football to be played in that division, and we'll see it when we get to the table there in a few minutes. But it's interesting to
But it's a good indicator. After 4 games, you've a fair idea where teams are picking up points and where they're dropping them, who's maybe at the promotion end and who's going to be battling for relegation. But the other promoted team from Division 1B to Division 1A this year was Ballyhaise, and they were taking on the county champions Cavan Gaels out in Ballyhaise, and came away with a wonderful victory here for an intermediate club to beat the senior champions. Scoreline was 15 points to Ballyhaise and 2 goals and 7 to Cavan Gaels, so big win. 15
scores to 9. When you look at it, it was a 2-point victory. All right, Cavan Gaels got a couple of goals, but Ballyhaise, that's another brilliant victory for them. And when you look at it, Cavan Gaels have lost to both of the intermediate finalists from last year, which is Ballyhaise and Coothill.
Correct. And Cavan Gaels in this game went 2 points up with about 5 minutes to go, and Ballyhaise scored the last 4 points to win. So the other thing that Ballyhaise did, which I said it a couple of years ago, I think that Cavan should look at maybe doing it. Ballyhaise narrowed in the pitch.
They narrowed their own pitch.
They brought in their pitch just to regulation width, but because Ballyhaise's pitch, I think somebody was telling me that it's roughly 50 metres from post to sideline on either side, whereas most pitches are in around
40 to 45.
Or yeah, exactly. Some of them are even down as low as 38, I was told. So it's probably, look at home advantage. You might as well make the advantage.
We actually spoke about it before the Cavan Armagh match in 2013, and because we were worried about the space that Armagh would be able to expose it, but Cavan exposed it. They did.
But that's it was interesting to see. Look, at tactics are going to every level to try and get the right result. So well done to Ballyhaise and John Brady.
The next game saw Ramor Utd, the guys, the club that we had in there a few minutes ago, taking on Castlerahan, and this ended up in a draw. It was 1-7 to 2-4. Interestingly enough, both teams have been scoring very freely this year, and to see both of them, like there was 8, 10, there was 14 scores altogether.
16 scores all.
14 scores altogether in that game. 1-7 to 2-4. 10 points apiece. Disappointing. Both of them are probably didn't want to lose that game and just probably went out a bit defensive. And
Castlerahan drew with Ballyhaise the week before, so they were obviously making sure that they weren't going to be beaten. And Ramor, who are scoring freely at the minute, but Castlerahan will be well organised under Michael Riley. So it's they'll probably be both happy with the draw.
Exactly.
And be happy to go out and pick up points elsewhere. But the last game saw Lacken taking on Lavey up in New Wins, and Lacken came away with a convincing victory here. 2 goals and 9 points to Lacken, and Lavey scored 7 points. So it was a big win for Lacken there. And
8-point victory for Lacken, 15 points to 7, and Lacken are having a bit of an up and down season this year, so they're winning some games and by 7 or 8 points, and then they're losing by 7 or 8 points. They're just one of those teams that when they have everybody available to them, they are a very, very strong outfit. So
yeah, they are indeed. So that brings us on now to the table, and you can see there on top, Castlerahan still on top, having played 4, won 2, drawn 2, and they have 6 points. Ramor Utd then have 3 played and 5 points. Kingscourt have 4 played and 5 points, and then you've got 3 teams with 4 points there: Lacken, Cavan Gaels and Coothill.
Yeah, and then you look down the bottom there, and 2 teams on 2 points: Mullahoran and Ballinya, and Ballyhaise and Lavey both on 3 points. Still very, very tight in that division. Everybody has taken points off everybody. There's only 2 unbeaten teams, that's Castlerahan and Ramor, but they both have drawn a game. So it's a very, very competitive division there at the minute.
Yeah, it is indeed. So that moves on now to Division 1B results, and the first game in Division 1B saw Crushlaw taking on Drumgoon. This was over in Kinelec. Crushlaw came away with a very big win here. 2 goals and 16 points to Drumgoon's 8 points. That's massive.
Massive win. 22 points to 8. 14-point victory for Crushlaw. Crushlaw moving very, very well. They've got the addition, I suppose, of a lot of the young fellas that have been playing minor the last few years. Very good footballers, the Smiths and stuff like that, I suppose.
But Pierce actually wasn't playing.
Pierce wasn't playing, So still, like, they're flying at the moment. So
they are. And look, they've loads of quality coming through. Another year or two, if Crushlaw can keep themselves up in that senior championship, they've got the quality at minor and under 16 like that have been playing Division 1 all the way, and they're very well coached under Jimmy Higgins and Philip Smith and lads like that within the club, that Crushlaw have talent coming through. But that's a big win, and surprised because Drumgoon had been looking like they were going to go
just
well.
getting a bit of form and stuff like that, and they were defending very well. But that's a big scoreline to let in. But look, they'll bounce back, I'm sure. The next game saw Cuchullin's taking on Red Hills, and Cuchullin's this was down in Mulla, and Cuchullin's came away with a big victory here. 3 goals and 14 points to Red Hills, 1 goal and 6. It was a 23 points to 9, a 14-point victory for Cuchullin's. Cuchullin's very, very strong at the minute. They're going places at the minute. Red Hills probably just in transition at the minute, and it's just tough on them at the minute.
They're showing progress though, Cuchullin's. It's quite notable. They got to the senior championship semi-final last year for the first time, and it's obviously breed confidence into them, because they're, bar Arva, I think they've won a lot of games. We'll see the table in a minute, but they're coming good. They have quality forwards, and they've a few very young fellas, lads that were minor last year.
McGee and a couple of the lads, and whatever,
Exactly, young Riley as well, like that. They've got lots of quality coming through. Young Carolyn as well. So they're a team to watch come championship, and if they keep on picking up results like that, confidence will be high, and they'll fear nobody.
That's it, exactly.
Then we're taking on Gowna in Crosskeys on Friday night as well, and Gowna came away with the victory here. Finished 2 goals and 11 points to Gowna, and then finished with 12 points. So a 5-point win there for Gowna.
Yeah,
goals win games.
Goals win games, so they do, and Gowna, Gowna are progressing nicely through that league at the minute. Then again, another team that are in transition. They're waiting on a lot of young fellas to break through and whatever. They've lost some of the old stalwarts, I suppose, on the team and whatever. They're in transition. New pitch down there as well, so that hopefully will breed a bit of excitement in the players and stuff, and into the club, and I'm sure Dan will be back as well.
And then the last game in Division 1B saw Killigarry hosting Arva. Arva, of course, undefeated in this division up till this game, and still after this game, because they won on a scoreline of 1 goal and 12 points to Arva and 2-6 to Killigarry. So Arva continuing this wonderful march from bottom division to top division, like they're heading in the direction of top division. So it's an absolute wonderful set of results there for Arva, because somebody was saying to me during the week that if Arva did get promoted, they'd be the first team in Cavan history to win 3 successive promotions.
Really?
Yeah, because
there was only ever 3 divisions.
Exactly. This is only the 3rd or 4th year of 4 divisions.
Yeah.
But they'll have gone from year on year.
Division 3, Division 2, Division 1.
Division 3 to Division 2,
Division 1B, 1A,
and if they continue. So.
And with the form they're having, it's looking like they will be.
Yeah, you can see from the table that Arva, as we said, are sitting on top there. They've 4 played and they've 8 points on the board, and just continuing a steamroll through that Division 1B at the minute. Gowna are in 2nd position. They have 4 played with 6 points. Then Cuchullin's have the same amount of games played and 5 points on the board.
Yeah, and then when you look down the bottom, it is Red Hills that are holding up the table there on 0 points. Den on 2 points, Killashandra on 2 points, and Killigarry on 3 points. So that loss to Arva for Killigarry, that was a huge in terms of the league this year. Killigarry pushing for promotion or ending up down the relegation. It will be. They have a great chance still of getting up there to the promotion spot, but they'll have to go unbeaten.
Yeah, if you lose 2, generally it means you're relying on other teams to do you a favour to get that promotion spot. But Killigarry's loss probably to Drumlane, it seems to have thrown a bit of a spanner in the works for them, because they did look like they were going well up until that point. But
they were 5 points up in that Drumlane game as well at one stage, and then the goals went in.
So we'll move on to Division 2, and the first game in this division saw Killincare hosting Shercock, and this finished in a draw, 1 goal and 8 points apiece.
You went to this game, didn't you?
I was at this game, actually, surprisingly enough. Good enough game, actually. Killincare were 5 points up, I think, at half time, and Killian Clark didn't start the game, but he came on at half time, and he started to take a bit of control in the middle of the field and just driving at the Killincare lads. Unfortunately, we had a man sent off then about 5 minutes into the second half, so we played most of the second half with 14 men.
So a draw in them circumstances with a man down and Killian Clark on the pitch in the second half, a draw is a good result then?
Yeah, it probably wasn't a bad result. there was a number of brilliant saves made by the young lad who's playing in goals for Killincare, Seamus Cullen. 1v1, I think he pulled off 3 saves that, you know, were just crucial to keep us in the game. And you know, he ended up getting a black card. Now some players and some people were debating Packy Smith was refereeing it, and it was a penalty incident. But basically, what happened was the young goalkeeper Seamus Cullen, he gave a kick out and he miskicked it, and I went to a Shercock man, and he was coming ploughing through, and he tried to sidestep Seamus, and he pulled him to the ground, and Packy blew the whistle and put out his arms to signal for the penalty. But as your man was falling to the ground, he struck the ball and kicked it into the net, and he let the goal stand. So people were debating whether you can blow the whistle and then give the advantage afterwards. I was talking to a referee actually.
And he got a black card as well for it.
And he got a black card for it, and rightly so. There was no doubt it was a black card. But I was talking to a referee, and I wasn't aware of it, but apparently you're allowed to blow the whistle and still give the advantage if the play goes on. So I didn't realise that, but a referee I spoke to on Saturday night told me that. So that's a new one for me, and a new one for probably a lot of people that they should be aware of, because
I'd say it's that if he blows the whistle in while the play is in play, the ball is being played, he can give the advantage. Maybe that's what it is. He can give the advantage that as he blows the whistle and the ball is being played, if the ball is played into a score, he can allow the score, I presume. That's probably what it is.
I would say so. As in, once it is a score, it's the final part of a play, not a hand pass in the middle third of the field, and then defenders stand up. So it must be like that. It must be just
something interesting anyway that people should probably need to know when they're going to a game. Football match.
So the second game saw Muncherconnect taking on Lara. This was up in Muncherconnect, and Lara came away with the victory here. 2 goals and 15 points to Lara, and 1 goal and 10 to Muncherconnect. Yeah,
Lara doing very well in that division, and again a lot of young team. They had a lot of success at underage level over the last few years, and it's starting to come true for them. So well done to all and Lara. The next game saw Baileyborough taking on Butler's Bridge, and this was down in Baileyborough. Baileyborough won this in a scoreline of 13 points to Butler's Bridge 10. A 3-point win for Baileyborough. Again, good result for Baileyborough. Yeah,
apparently man of the match in that game was young Brendan Argue. Absolutely outstanding. He was playing, I think, as a wing forward or something, but scored
6 points. 6 or 7 points, And Michael Argue played full forward, and so did Fergal Flanagan. Played full forward for Butler's Bridge, and both of them were quiet. So they were, but it was the young Brendan Argue who stole the show.
So great to see the St Pat's form carrying on into his club now.
Absolutely.
So good to see that. All right, Swanland Bar were taking on Drumalee. This was down in Swanland Bar, and the home side came away with a massive victory here. 3 goals and 14 points to Swanland Bar, and 6 points to Drumalee. So a wonderful result for Swanland Bar, who are, as we'll see in the table, cruising through this division as well at the minute. Gerard McKiernan, I think, scored 1-6 in this game. So, you know, the man, he's showing unbelievable form. And at this level, Division 2 football is the third tier of club football. He's just unstoppable, I think, at the minute.
Yeah, well, he's one of the best midfielders in Ulster, if not in the country. And, you know, if you put him down the third tier of club football, he's going to be the difference on a lot of days, and he's been the difference on most of their games so far this year. As we said before, Swanland Bar have a wonderful 15 players, maybe 17 players. If they get injuries or if they're missing players, that's when they struggle. But they have some serious talent in maybe their first 19 players.
Yeah, once they can stay injury free, they have a real good shot at promotion, and they'll be confident going into the intermediate championship. So Belturbet were taking on Ballymacue. This was in Belturbet, and it finished Belturbet 3 goals and 5 points, and Ballymacue a goal and 9. So a good win there for Belturbet. They're again consistently managing to raise that green flag. They're so good in the full forward line. Bud, J.O. and Niall O'Reilly, just absolute hitting the net for fun.
Well, you know, there used to be a saying, he's always good for a goal, you know, J.O., and he's still scoring the goals, like Jason Riley. Wonderful to see him still banging in the goals there for Belturbet, and a good win for Belturbet.
Yeah, 2-point win, they'll be happy with that, and you can see what effect that has had on the table, because you can see Biltorbit are sitting in third there. They've 4 games played with 1 drawn and 1 loss, 5 points. But top of the table, I suppose you have to say hats off to Swan and Bar, doing extremely well there. 4 games played, 8 points on the board. They've scored a massive 78 points. Like it's a phenomenal scoring rate
in 4 games. Like that's huge. Like so, and not only that, but I think they're the only team so far. Well, in the 3 divisions that we've looked at that haven't lost or have won all 4 games that they played. Arva have 4 wins as well.
That's it. Yeah. But they're the only 2 teams, I think. Well, maybe we'll see in the last. No, actually, there's 3 teams I think in total again.
And then you see down the bottom of the table there, Drummondley have no points from 3 games. They do have a game in hand that could bring them back up level with Muncher Connacht and Ballymacue. Still a lot of football to be played in this, but you can see what teams are going to be pushing for promotion really at the moment.
Yeah, like the teams you'd have to say with 3 losses are going to be, they'll struggle to get into the promotion end of it.
Yeah.
So they'll be fighting to make sure they stay in that division. And even the teams probably with 2 losses and a draw, will be the same. They'll be relying on a lot of other results to go their way. But it's Swan and Bars to lose at this stage.
Yeah, it is indeed. But we'll move on now to the All-County Football League Division 3. Again, all these games played last Friday night. And the first game saw Kill taking on Drung, a local derby there, and it finished with an away win for Drung. It was Kill 1 goal and 7, Drung 2 goals and 10 points. So a 6-point win there for Drung.
Yeah, and Kill, unfortunately, they're true to form at the minute for them. Unfortunately for them, because they're seeming. I don't know what's going on. I haven't seen it, and I haven't really got talking to anybody from Kill, but it just doesn't seem to be going well for the Shamrocks club there from Tullavin. So, but a local derby like that, Drung will be delighted to have picked up the victory there.
They will indeed.
They needed that.
Yeah, definitely. And as you said, like the Kill, there's something just not right. There's something amiss there at the minute in
probably something similar to we were saying about Swan and Bar. When they have everybody available, they're a very good side, Kill, but maybe 2, 3, 4 injuries and they can be a very poor side.
Exactly.
And that's maybe what is the reason for these results at the minute. But the second game didn't take place. Unfortunately, Corla got a walk over here from Cavan Gaels, which is very disappointing for Corla because they've been going very well this year. They've picked up a couple of wins and they needed games and they need more games and disappointing to see another walk over in this division, but that's the way it goes. We've said enough on it already. Yep,
we have indeed. And the next game saw Mount Nugent taking on Knockbride. Knockbride there, it was an away win here for Knockbride. It was Mount Nugent 1 goal and 8 to Knockbride's 2 goals and 10, so 5-point victory for Knockbride.
Yeah, and that's a good win for Knockbride because they're in the process of rebuilding, a very young team coming through again, a lot of minors on that team, and to go over to Mount Nugent where it's never easy to pick up points. That's a wonderful win for a very young Knockbride team, so well done to all involved there. The final game saw Templeport taking on Cornafane. This was down in Bombay, and Templeport came away with a 6-point victory here. A goal and 12 points to Templeport and a goal and 6 to Cornafane. Templeport on the march.
On the march, and not only that, but what a win against Cornafane. The Templeport team would be a very young team. Yeah. The Cornafane team would be a very tough team. And to win by 6 points and to keep Cornafane to just a goal and 6, 7 scores.
Cornafane have been in the last 2 at least junior championship semi-finals, and beaten by Arva both years.
And I think they won the
Breffni
League last year as well.
Right. So that's no easy game, and to win it by 6 points is showing Fintan Riley and Gary Donoghue, I think's with him as well. Yeah, doing very, very well down for Templeport. But you can see what effect that's had on the table, as it's coming up on screen now, and Templeport are the 3rd team in Cavan to have won all 4 of their games, have not dropped a point, so they're sitting on top with 8 points, and then closely followed behind by Drung, who have actually, surprised to me, won all 3 of their games, but they have a game in hand.
They have a game in hand, yeah.
They're still undefeated and no points dropped either, so they have 6 points. So the 2 teams, Templeport and Drung, are in the driving spot for promotion.
They are indeed at the minute, and Kildallan also have only played 2 games so far in that league, and they have 2 games in hand. They've won 2 from 2, but I'd rather have the points on the board than the games in hand.
What does it say? A board in the hand is
worth 2 in the bush.
Is worth 2 in the bush.
It is indeed. And then down the bottom you'll see that Cavan Gaels unfortunately having struggled to put a team together again this weekend, are down the bottom with 0 points. Kill are just above them, also on 0 points, just a score difference better. And then Corla and Mount Nugent both on 2 points, just above them. So yeah, it's a tight table, that one as well, but you can see there are some teams that are having some serious form at the minute. Is it too early to be peaking? That's another thing, because the championship is not going to be until August, so there's a lot of teams doing very well at the moment, and you know,
time will tell.
Time will tell. That's the only thing. But
you know,
it is great for these teams to be sitting up there.
It is like there's four teams there that you can realistically say are all still chasing the promotion. Kildallan, Knockbride, Drung and Templeport they still have promotion within their sight, so that's going to be an extremely competitive division at the top end.
That's for sure, definitely. And even Shannon Gales there as well have played 3, they've won 2 and lost 1. So if they won theirs,
they're still in the mix.
They're still in the mix.
That's going to be a brilliant division to watch as the league progresses. So that brings us to the end of the roundup of the All County Football League, and it'll be another, I think, 4 weeks until we're back. But next week we'll be bringing you the Breffni League results as it continues to progress. Yep. The Cavan under-16s footballers, the lads footballers, take on Monaghan and Donegal this coming Saturday in Cloughan, and the Monaghan game is at 12 o'clock. Donegal game is at 1 because they're only 20-minute halves. It's kind of a blitz game, so we wish them the very best of luck. John Brady and co, we had them in on the show a few weeks ago, but it's a wonderfully talented bunch of footballers. Be interested to see can they gel well enough together to start picking up a few results and beating teams that they'd love to be beaten.
Exactly, and you know, breeding a bit of confidence for going on to minor and stuff like that, where they're going to be meeting these teams and not to not fear them. Yeah. That's what you want. So tune in next week for the results and reports from those games that will be played on Saturday.
We'll have as much information as possible anyway, and we'll bring it to you for next week. Again, just to remind you, the Den Legends tournament takes place on June the 20th and 27th in Crosskeys, and the launch night was last Saturday night, I think it was at 9 p.m, but the draw will take place on the Saturday night before the Cavan Monaghan game, here live on CavanTV.com. Live TV.
Also, Ramor Utd, again, we'll just give them a plug as well. Ramor Utd will open their pitch, and which they are renaming after former chairman Niall Dolan, who died last year. The opening will take place on Sunday evening at 6:30. Yes, I nearly said Saturday again. It's on at 6:30 on Sunday evening, May the 10th. That's this Sunday, and Cavan will be hosting Meath in the opening of that pitch.
Yeah, so it's a great occasion. So get up to Virginia Sunday, once all the club football is over, just get in the car and go straight on up.
Exactly, get in the car and straight on up to Virginia.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that brings us,
West Virginia.
Yeah, it's probably east.
It probably is, but it doesn't make for a good song.
But it's almost heaven.
It is, that's for sure.
So that brings us to the end of this week's show. Remember, if you want to get in contact with us, we'd be delighted to hear from you.
Yes, and just before we go as well, I just want to let you know that we didn't coordinate our clothes this week. No. We just happened to arrive in together wearing a checkered shirt, blue jeans and brown shoes. But it just shows you how we obviously we're in each other's minds. But anyway,
unfortunately. I'll go with this.
No, it's fine. I got this. You can email us at GaelicFootballViews.com. You can find us on Facebook by searching Gaelic Football Views, or you can follow us on Twitter by searching @GaelicFV. So until next week, it's goodbye from me.
And God bless.